tenants. The changes in there were certainly welcome for private renters, and it was clearly a pro-tenant piece of legislation, which was excellent to see. There's two areas in particular that were useful. Section 173, extending notice periods to 6 months rather than 2 months when you're no-fault evicted, is bound to be really useful because it gives more time to save, more time to look for a property and just to understand what's about to happen to you when you're being evicted. And also the protection from no-fault eviction for tenants, as was mentioned, whose property is in disrepair. That's also a really useful protection. Both of those are limited, though, in a way. For the latter, if you've got that protection, we think there needs to be an ombudsman for private renting, for private landlords, so that the ombudsman can make sure that tenants are aware of that right to not be evicted through no fault if their property is in disrepair, and then to deal with disputes through that, track it, and be able to take action. And on Section 173, one area which could be more effective, we talked about no fault, no reason, so you'd want to give reasons from the landlord, because then you can actually track what the problems are that are driving up the enormous amount of people living in temporary accommodation, for example. But beyond that, an idea of generation rent is that you could look at relocation relief for people who are evicted through no fault of their own. We estimate the average move cost for an unwanted move for tenants is about £1,700. So being able to have 2 months, the final 2 months of your notice period, waived in terms of the rent from the landlord would be enormously helpful to prevent homelessness, because it would give not only that ability to save more, to save for your deposit and to save for the other moving costs that you have, but it also means at the moment you've got that tiny window in which, as a private tenant, you have to find a new property when leaving the old one. Ideally, on the same day, you'd move out and you'd move into the new one. Properties obviously cycle pretty quickly, so if you miss that window, that's it, you're out and potentially homeless. If you have that 2-month period waived in terms of the rent that you're paying, then you're not worrying about paying rents on 2 properties. You have that whole 2 months in which to decide when's the best time, what's the best property to move into. It would massively improve the ability to make good choices as a tenant when you're choosing where to move to next.